So we've got the Supercross and Motocross series in Australia. Supercross is run 4 rounds over 6 weeks. Motocross series is 8 rounds over 6 months. Why the difference between the two?
Look, it's calendar's one of the worst jobs that I think this organisation has. So there's over 5,000 events permitted now under the Motorcycling Australia a year.
Wow.
So think of that in 50 weekends.
Is that 100 a weekend?
Across the country, 100 a weekend.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and we all still, I'm saying this with a smile on my face, we all still want to be nice to each other and say, oh, you can't do that, and I want that weekend, and I want that weekend. The reality is we've got to get beyond that and look what the rest of the world does. 5,000 activities taking place through the year.
That's so much more than I thought.
So let's pull out how a calendar works. So let's pull out Formula One, not motorcycles. Who wants to run an event around Melbourne Formula One weekend? So therefore you need to head off. ASBK is running on Formula One weekend in Sydney on Saturday night, right? So we can still utilise the weekend, and a lot of off-road communities in other states won't care about Formula One.
Yeah.
But when you want to have motocross and ASBK on television, live television, why would you waste your money putting it on Formula One weekend?
Mm-hmm.
Right? You just pour money in the toilet.
Yeah, no, you need to structure it the best possible.
So you can't go Formula One weekend with those events.
Yeah.
You can't go Bathurst V8 weekend.
So you prioritise like the biggest profile events and slowly work your way down.
No, the whole world does.
Gotcha.
So nobody will set a MotoGP calendar until you have a Formula One calendar, right?
Right.
Nobody will set the World Superbike calendar until you have a MotoGP calendar.
So what's like Formula One, MotoGP,
World Superbike, then we now have World Supercross, which we don't have dates for, but so we've got the Beyond the Back of Nowhere Club Day on somewhere in Australia, and Global Supercross, World Supercross is going to say we're going to run a World Championship. We want to run a World Championship event. Do you think we should move the club day, or should we tell Global World Supercross to go away?
Yeah.
But they're the battles you fight internally.
There's just going to be 5,000 events. That's so many, more than I thought.
So they're the battles you fight.
Yeah.
And we get it. The people around that event, whatever other event is, and this global promoter comes in and says we're coming to Australia. Yeah. It's a real fight.
Yeah, I don't envy that. Like I see it with the northern regions, even just in the Victorian state, trying to work it in. Sometimes there is no right answer. It's just
we look at where we sit. AMA Supercross, very clearly a globally followed series.
Yep.
High profile. It's got January to May wrapped up, right? Supercross in Australia traditionally is summer. They want to run. Well, they're not going to run in winter. It's such a high risk, high investment if you're going to have rain everywhere. Right? And that's why they're trying to use even indoor stadiums now to further give that security of not having a mud or having an event cancelled, right? So now you've got World Supercross sitting in the calendar. Mm-hmm. So AMA Supercross, Australian Supercross, World Supercross. So you've got to have that period of looking at calendars and say, where do we best fit? Right now, whether it's the best fit, Australian motocross has always traditionally ran April to August. You've got to remember that we move into donations in September. Right? So the reality is we've got to select a team of our motocross riders. It's got to be selected based on form, or we just forget the donations.
Well, yeah, I've always been curious. Motocross in the middle of winter, sometimes it's good, but a lot of times it can be.
Oh, look.
For let's say crowd attendance, putting on the event, it's probably would be better if it was maybe a bit forward or a bit later.
The rest of the world runs
AMAs in the summer. Yeah.
Right?
Why are we that way?
We go to the next battle. In our society of Australians that we live in, they've always got to look for something to complain about.
Yep.
And if we start to run motocross in summer, we'll probably get sued for child abuse for running in 38 to 43 degree, or we'll cancel all those events.
I was going to say, I wish you were joking, but
I'm not joking. The society we live in now would dictate to you that you probably can't run when it gets into 40, 42, 44 degree. And think about rural Australia, there's a bucket load of that goes on in summer. So hence you get caught in between, we've even had people say, oh, you need a heat policy. Well, the problem with having a heat policy is if you can't use common sense and you've got a policy, once you've got a policy, if you break that policy, then you're in trouble.
This is a whole other topic on its own, yeah.
It's another topic on its own, isn't it, right?
You see it on the news, they'll say a 35-degree heat wave, and you're thinking that's not...
Correct. Now, America, I lived there for 14 years. It's common to race in 38 to 40 degree days at altitude at Pikes Peak.
Yeah, I looked it up once.
No air.
It was like, I think it said 110 Fahrenheit. And I'm like, how hot really is that? And it's very hot.
It's very hot. We're running fans on. We had to put some fans together for the motocross bike, the Suzuki Works bikes with Dungey and those guys.
Yeah.
Because we had to put all this insulation. They were boiling the fuel in the tank, and the things were overheating.
That's right. Yeah.
The AMA said, we don't care. That's not our bikes aren't our problem. That's your problem, right? So so the rest of the world races in summer.
Yeah.
And we don't.
I would not have expected that answer.
So we.
Bugger.
If you want to look at it personally, if you want your sport to, again, you want to be able to sit at home in Queensland and watch the live motocross from Victoria, right? You'll be best off going into summer. There's no AFL.
Yeah.
There's no NRL, right? Bathurst and supercars are over. You're dealing with cricket, which has got its own problems as a sport, but cricket doesn't have. I don't think many motorcycle people are really avid sit at home and watch a 5-day test match cricket fans, right?
No.
So I would suggest that there's definitely an opening for a series to move into that space. There was an attempt by the road race guys to move into that space.
Yep.
It was blocked by a lot of the manufacturers because they couldn't get their head around competing over 2 calendar years and how rider contracts would work and how bonuses would work, how their budgets would work, right? So it was close. So there's a lot of pros and cons. Yeah. Start looking at weather. Start looking at juniors. Should we have kids on 65s out doing 15-minute motos in 43 to 44 degree heat? Oh no, what we'll do is we'll change the schedule. What we'll do is we'll start running at night. And what we'll do is we'll cancel the race. Right? There's all these what ifs and buts.